Bint, B-I-N-T, that means the daughter of. If you say bin means the son of. Bint means the daughter of in Arabic. So Sumayyah, the daughter of Khabbat, Khabbat, Sumayyah bint Khabbat. Oh my God. Now Sumayyah bint Khabbat was born circa 550 CE. Oh my God, have mercy. Yes, 550 CE. That's the common era. And she was born in Ethiopia. She was an Ethiopian woman, this beautiful black woman. Oh, at a very young age, she was quite studious. She went to school to read and also to write. She went to school to be educated. She grew into a very beautiful woman. So beautiful. She had a brother who went missing. It was said that the brother had traveled all the way to Mecca from Ethiopia in a caravan. He had gone to trade. In those days, people moved all the way from Ethiopia all the way down to Mecca to trade. And Meccans also came all the way down to Ethiopia to trade. That was how come we had Bilal going all the way to Mecca. And it was also in the days of slavery when freed people were taken and captured and enslaved all the way from Africa and carried all the way to the Arab lands. In fact, the Arabs have been involved in more slavery than even the Europeans. The Arabs enslaved African people long before Islam even started. My brother, my sister, today we are talking about Sumayyah bint Khabbat. Yes, Sumayyah bint Khabbat. Some people say Khabbat, others say Khabbat. My brother, my sister, this is the African history class, and I'm most excited to be with you. The African history class, and I'm most excited to be here. Today we're talking about Sumayyah. Sumayyah bint Khabbat. Sumayyah bint Khabbat. Sumayyah bint Khabbat. So the double Y there is supposed to be double B. Double B. So Sumayyah bint Khabbat. Sumayyah bint Khabbat. So Sumayyah bint Khabbat, my brother, my sister, was born in 550 CE. And interesting, she grew up into a beautiful woman. She decided to go all the way into Mecca to look for her brother who had been missing. And when she arrived in Mecca, oh my God, something interesting happened. She was looking for the brother. She couldn't find the brother. And she decided to stay in Mecca for some time. Why did she decide to stay in Mecca? This is how the story unfolds. Sumayyah had become a slave whilst in Ethiopia. In fact, and her slave master was called Abu Huzaifa ibn al-Maghira. Abu Huzaifa ibn al-Maghira. That was the name of the slave master. And the slave master was all the way from Mecca. In fact, he belonged to the family of the Quraysh, the same family that the Prophet of Islam came from. He was the slave master of Sumayyah. He was not a wicked man as compared to other slaveholders. And when Sumayyah came to him and said, I want to go to Mecca and take care of my brother if I find him. I know he needs me. Sumayyah said, okay. Sumayyah also belonged to the Makhzum clan. The Makhzum clan. Makhzum clan. My brother, my sister right there in Mecca. So Huzaifa decided that he would rather go with Sumayyah all the way to Mecca because he knew Mecca very well. So when they arrived in Mecca, Sumayyah decided to stay in Mecca to continue looking for the brother and also to see if she will be able to find new opportunities right there in Mecca. And when she arrived in Mecca, she looked for the brother in every nook and cranny and could not find him. Now her master, Abu Huzaifa, decided that he would give her hand in marriage to one Yasir ibn Amir. In those days, slaves could not say no to any marriage proposal proposed to them by their masters. The master could decide to marry the slave or decide to give the slave girl to any man of his choice in marriage. This time around, it was Yasir ibn Amir who became the suitor and married this woman called Sumayyah. They got married, and Yasir ibn Amir was from the Malik clan of the Madhij, yes, Madhij tribe in Yemen. So he was from Yemen. They got married, and when they came to live in Mecca, they looked and looked for the lost brother who they could not find. But the two people decided that they would continue to live in Mecca and find other opportunities. Our heroine for today, Sumayyah ibn Khabbat, oh my God, decided to stay in this country, today called Saudi Arabia. She stayed in the country and decided to work for her freedom. She worked very hard and paid for her freedom. She became a free woman in Mecca. She got pregnant and gave birth to her first child by name Ammar. And they remained for the rest of their lives in Mecca. They never returned to Ethiopia again. Probably for fear that they will be taken as slaves again. In Mecca, they were known and seen as Africans who had been enslaved, and they worked very hard to be able to buy their freedom. In freedom, she could move anywhere. Abu Huzaifa, her former master, died before Islam. Oh my God. But it was said that Abu Huzaifa actually knew the Prophet of Islam. But that was before Islam started, and he was one of those who mocked the Prophet of Islam, because it was at the time that he would go into the cave of Hira, stay in the cave there praying. He would mock him and say, you, one day a deadly desert snake would bite you and kill you in those caves. Why do you leave the city and go live in a cave? He used to call the Prophet a caveman, mocking him. My brother, my sister, today we're talking about Sumayyah, bint Khabbat. Now listen to the interesting thing that happened. When Islam started, Khadija was the first woman to accept Islam. And that was the very first woman and the very first person to accept Islam. After the Prophet of Islam spoke to her about what he saw, his encounter with the angel in the cave of Hira. The next woman to accept Islam was a black woman from Ethiopia. The woman we're talking about today, Sumayyah bint Khabbat. Oh gosh. Sumayyah bint Khabbat accepted Islam. And in those days, people were hiding to worship the Islamic way. In fact, we all remember, how the enemies of Islam attacked the Prophet of Islam, even going all the way to the mosque to attack them. We all remember the story of Umar bin Khattab, who went all the way into the mosque to stop his sister from worshiping the Islamic way, to stop the Prophet of Islam. We all remember how the Prophet of Islam prayed that the two Umars, one of them should join Islam. And at the end of the day, it was Umar bin Khattab who joined Islam. My brother, my sister, all this while, there was an African woman who had joined the Prophet. The Prophet himself, known and proven to have come from Ethiopia. This was another woman from Ethiopia, Sumayyah bint Khabbat. She would follow the Prophet everywhere, pray with the Prophet in the mosque, fast in the month of Ramadan. Oh my God. and do everything Islamic. Whilst people were hiding to worship, this was the only woman who would come out and profess Islam publicly. She would carry the name of Allah everywhere she went. And she made a lot of enemies for herself. In those days, you couldn't publicly proclaim yourself as a Muslim, but she was the one who did it. She will proudly talk about Islam in public. And for that matter, she was targeted. Oh, she would go to the mosque. She would do a lot of things. Now, the other people who had also converted to Islam around that time, apart from Khadija, were Abu Bakr, Bilal, all the way from Ethiopia, and then Khabbat. We also had Suhaib and Ammar, who was also the son of Sumayyah. So Sumayyah, her husband, and the son all converted to Islam, and then they carried Islam so high, hiding to go and worship, hiding to go into the mosque and pray. She was the one who publicly went out there to proclaim Islam. Apart from the Prophet of Islam, this was the next person who went out publicly, and for that matter, she was victimized. Now, there was a very dangerous enemy of Islam by name Abu Jahil. Abu Jahil was a very terrible Meccan. He was also from the family of Quraysh, the same family as the Prophet of Islam. And he killed Muslims like mosquitoes. Anybody who proclaimed the oneness of God was his enemy, because he believed in various gods of the Meccan people, the Quraysh people. And he will never give that belief for anything. He was like the Paul of Christianity. He will kill and murder. So when he heard our heroine for today, oh, Sumayyah bint Khabbat, you know what happened? He decided to arrest her. Arrested her and locked her up, beat her up night and day, for her to renounce Islam and say there's nothing like Islam, there's nothing like Prophet Muhammad, there's nothing like Allah. But the gods of the Quraysh, she refused. Of course, at this time, she was already an old, frail woman. In fact, she was one of those older than the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad. My brother, my sister, in her old age, she still stood behind Islam and for Islam. And she proclaimed, anytime Abu Jahil came over to beat her and ask her, so are you not tired of all these beatings? Or do you want to die? Just renounce Islam and be free. She would rather say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. Oh my God. Abu Jahil would get more angry, beat her up over and over. One day, Abu Jahil told himself that this will be the end of this woman. Today, if I go to her and I ask her to renounce Islam and she refuses, I am going to kill her. So he took this woman up, and her son, who had also been taken prisoner, and the husband, Amir, also taken prisoner and taken onto the deserts of Arabia, the Arabian desert. Oh my God, aka the Sahara Desert. Hot sun. They were barefooted, naked, and standing in the hot sun as the sun was feasting on their flesh. Abu Jahil came up to her and said, you Sumayyah bint Khabab, today is the last day you will live on earth. But you still have a choice to continue living. All you need to do is to renounce Islam and renounce the Prophet of Islam. Oh my God. The husband started to shiver. The son Ammar also started shivering. Oh, he was holding a spear and a long sword, which was still in his cupboard. And Sumayyah looked at Abu Jahil, his bulging muscles, and the fire that was coming out of his eyes, his blood test. She looked at him as Abu Jahil continued to breathe fire on her. Today is your last day on earth. If you announce and renounce everywhere that there is no Prophet of Islam and there's nothing like Allah, you are free to go with your family and you will stay free forever. She looked at Abu Jahil and proclaimed, La ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. Immediately, he drew his scabbard, his sword out of the scabbard, and started to stab the old woman. He pulled out his spear and impaled Sumayyah, bint Khabbat. She died, my brother, my sister, instantly in the hands, in the hands of Abu Jahl. This was 615 CE. My brother, my sister, she died. Today we remember this great black woman who stood by her faith. She became the very first person to die in the cause of Islam. She became the very first person to be martyred for Islam. Later in life, at the Battle of Badr, one of the most dangerous battles that ever got fought for Islam, Abu Jahl was killed by the Muslims, and the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, walked over to Ammar, the son of Sumayyah, and said, today, one of the biggest enemies of Islam has been killed. Today, the enemy of your mother Sumayyah, bint Khabbat, has been killed. And the Prophet of Islam hugged him, and together, they were so ecstatic. My brother, my sister, today we remember the story of Sumayyah bint Khabbat. Today we remember the woman who refused to bow. We remember the woman who stood firm even in the face of danger. One of the most dangerous people of Arabia, Abu Jahl, oh my God, held a spear and also held a sword, shining in both ends. It could cut, yet she still proclaimed and refused to renounce Islam. Today we remember you, Mami, all the way from Ethiopia. Oh, Mami. Uninyamenko. Uninyamenko. Mami, uninyamenko. Mami, misi uninyamenko. Mami, miniubeko. Miniubeko wate. Mami, miniubeko. Oh, Mami, uya. In the burden of knowledge, I ask you, how will the story of Sumayyah bint Khabbat impact your own life in contemporary times? In the burden of knowledge, I ask you, how will the story of Sumayyah bint Khabbat impact your own life? In the burden of knowledge, now that you know what will you do? Be an leya mini obafe yenzunda kagane mezaka yini ye ampa bango bukaya na fifi ya nya no kai na wo ba na ehu ebe den mese ba na ehu ebe ya bade lele ya njima singa abe konne lele ya njima singa aberi. It's been the African history class.
To glory, Papa Mu.